Kentucky. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning and welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. Also streaming on Facebook and YouTube. It is the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, live, local, and ready to get things rolling. Go check us out on the live stream at Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Follow at Martin Houston 35 at MaX _recruiting. Great ways for you to get involved and stay connected. We want to invite you to join the conversation on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. It's open for business. Wow, got a great show lined up for you, and want to let you know that you can always circle back on prior conversations as we look to continue to move forward as we've had our unofficial kickoff to the SEC football season with SEC Media Days. And on yesterday, we had a real treat having Kennington Smith, the third of the Athletic, join us, and he's going to be a regular guest, regular fixture on the show moving forward. So we'll have him as a part of the program every Monday. Of course, DC Capstone joins us on Tuesday. And then we have Scotty Hollins, who joins us on Wednesday for the Harvest Church Christian Moment of the Week. Thursday, we have MaX Recruiting, MaX _recruiting on Twitter. And then Friday is a free-for-all Friday. So have a full lineup. And as Blind Squirrel Sports said yesterday, it's the fastest hour in sports, but it is the Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. Before we get started, we want to remind you that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, Ax. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing well. What you got?
Man. some more recruiting. Am I getting feedback? Is it good now?
No.
Am I getting feedback?
No.
Good now.
Yeah, same issue. All right. Noah, please figure that out. All right. Got several topics to get to before we come back to Xavier. There's some legacy promotions. Not promotions, but offers going on from Alabama. Is the legacy a true need and commit from Alabama, or is it more of a legacy-based commitment? We'll talk about that. Alabama guys getting paid on one leg, and then on the other, guys like Josh Jacobs still waiting to get paid, but Trayvon Diggs getting nearly $100 million deal, which is, think about this, is not quite, just over, probably about 40% of what Herbert got with the Chargers. Trayvon got $97 million, which sounds like crazy, but Justin got 262 plus million. Let that sink in for a second. That's absolutely crazy. He may be worth it. We'll see. And then there's Josh Jacobs just trying to get paid. So we'll see what happens with him. Also, Manchin and Tuberville getting in on the NIL game. And they added a little twist to it. They added the transfer portal to the NIL deal. Now, these two guys may actually, if we can just leave it with them, those two, it might end up okay when you get the Congress involved, if you have these two guys leading the charge. So I may have to reprieve and back up on my thoughts and how bad it will be if Congress gets involved. Maybe Tuberville, having been a former coach and been involved with the sport a long time. I don't know Manchin's entire background, but I know that he comes as a Democrat, but he has shown himself to stand up on both sides of issues. So maybe he can be good and balanced, but we'll follow that. Also, high school kids moving schools, moving positions. What are your thoughts on that? Should coaches be all about just their team or about these kids and putting them in the right position to win, or for them to win as well? Love to get your thoughts on that, as Clay Chalkville's Mbakwe is now playing quarterback. So what does that mean for him in Alabama? Are you happy that he's not playing either the wide receiver position, or maybe that wasn't going to be his position in college anyway? So does it matter? One of Alabama's other commitments has changed high schools. How do you feel about that, as well as these kids just jump and move and change positions? Do you care? Just as long as they end up with your team. That, amongst other things, is what we have to talk about this morning. Let's go back to see if we have that situation figured out with Xavier. X, you back in. You were talking about a little bit of news that we'll break down and go into even more detail on tomorrow.
Okay, so yeah, DeMarcus Riddick, Alabama native.
Okay.
So yeah,
later on today, DeMarcus.
Let's go to break.
Riddick,
Let's go to break.
Yeah,
Alabama native.
Let's go to break.
It
Take
is
us a break, Noah.
a Georgia commit.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things looking pretty good on the roadways on a good-looking Wednesday morning. Now, if you do see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Go grab a summertime savings at your hometown Nissan dealer, Townsend Nissan of Tuscaloosa. I'm Captain Ray.
Get a great deal on Kubota M-Series utility tractors. Our powerful, versatile lineup is rated #1 in durability and owner experience. So whether you need to mow, rake, stack, lift, or pull, get it done right with Kubota M-Series utility tractors. Right now, get select Kubota M-Series utility tractors for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 60 months. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Tuscaloosa Tractor, 3921 Skyland Boulevard East. Don't you buy no ugly tractor.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
We've got some sizzling summer weather for the rest of the week. The sky mostly sunny today, the high 97. Fair tonight, below 74. Tomorrow and Friday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 95 and 98 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 72 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Good morning. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. And I promise you, as listeners, viewers, and chatters, we will get better on all fronts, or there'll be changes. So I apologize for that happening. Thank you so much for being patient with us as we try to present the sports of the day and what's happening. We will get better. Let's continue to move forward. As I was saying, we had Kennington on yesterday, and Kennington had a great view of how things, how he saw things. And I thought he gave us great insight into kind of what the media was thinking over in Atlanta, and why some voted the way they voted. And you could see some of that in the numbers in terms of the who ended up making all SEC and who ended up not making first team all SEC. And we really didn't break that down a lot, but I want to go back to kind of who ended up where, and it kind of makes you surprised. You kind of that Alabama ended up number one in the West over LSU based on how people voted. People have always said that Alabama has the most talent, that Alabama has the most ability. And that's why Alabama was always selected the highest. Well, Alabama ended up with, on offense and defense, they ended up with 3 total players on the first team. Let's look at the LSU team that was voted second behind Alabama. You got Jayden Daniels, first team, QB, Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU, first team, and Will Campbell, offensive line, first team. So there's three LSU guys on the first team offense. Alabama has one, J.C. Latham. Then you go down to first team defense. You got Mika Wingo, defensive lineman, LSU. Mason Smith, defensive lineman, LSU. Alabama shut out on the defensive line. Then you go to linebacker. You got Harold Perkins, LSU. So there's three LSU guys. Then you have Dallas Turner for Alabama and Kool-Aid McKinstry for Alabama. So X 6-3 on the first team LSU versus Alabama. That's the first team. I'm not even going to get into the second team. When you just look at that alone, what do you are you surprised that Alabama got voted over LSU? If people think that where it all starts up front, LSU has the best, betters Alabama there based on the statistics. 3-0, 2-0 on the defensive front, linebacker to linebacker. And then on the offense, they have the quarterback, the wide receiver, the 2 question marks that Alabama has, and they have an offensive lineman, which Alabama has one. How is it that Alabama was picked to beat LSU if they feel like that's the talent over at LSU?
I mean, it's a pretty good question when you look at it. I mean, also you look at the standpoint. Mason Smith getting a first team nod is a little crazy to me because it's strictly on potential. He played half of a game last year and blew his knee out against Florida State. So that's that. But no, I mean I don't know how you could put more guys on the first team from LSU and still pick Alabama to win overall. But I mean, maybe it's the coaching aspect of it at the end of the day, and people trust Nick Saban more than they trust Brian Kelly.
Yeah. Which Brian Kelly said, I'm coming to LSU to play Nick Saban and beat Nick Saban. And when I get the talent that Nick Saban has, I will beat him. Well, he did it last year, and I don't guess he felt like he had as much talent, but now he does, and now everyone else does. So that was an interesting thing. But look at Georgia. Lat McConkey, Brock Bowers, a wide receiver and a tight end, and Amarius Mims, and Tate Ratledge, and Cedric Van Prawn. Sorry. They have 5 guys on the offensive front. 5 linemen. Alabama, LSU, and Georgia have all 5 of the linemen that are first team. Georgia has 3 of them. Georgia has 2 of the wide receivers, and LSU has, 2 of the receiver positions, and LSU has the other one. The only 2 guys, the only place any other SEC team got in to the offensive side of the ball, was Ole Miss running back Junkins, which he clearly should be the toast of the town there, and then Sanders from Arkansas. And the reality of it is, if you look at it, 8 of the positions go to LSU and Georgia, because J.C. Latham was the only other person. Is that not one of the craziest? When you just think about that for a second, maybe that's legit, but it's crazy to think about.
It really is, especially when you're used to. Not saying that this hasn't happened before, but when you're used to it happening, it's Alabama with the dominant number as far as guys on the first team on either side of the ball. Sometimes it's an dominant Alabama year on the offense. Sometimes it's a dominant Alabama on the defense. So to come in and look and go, woo, Georgia and LSU running away with it, makes you wonder just a little bit.
Georgia has 5 offensive players on the offensive side of the ball and 6 on the defense on the first team. They have 11 of the 22 players are all at Georgia. If that is true, then Georgia runs away with another national title. If the season ends up with that type of number. LSU, on the other hand, has on the first team for the offense, they have 3. And then on the defense, they have 4, 5, 6. So 17 of the 22 players come from LSU and Georgia. Ironically, do you understand that no one made first team D from the SEC other than Alabama, Georgia, and LSU?
Oh, wow.
So first team SEC, offensive and defensive teams combined, you have 2 non-Georgia, Alabama, and LSU players. There is absolutely no way that is possible.
It can't be.
It's just. Let's just be real. Now you may say, "Well, who would you put in front of them?" I don't know, but you know how the season always plays out. It never plays out that way. But when you look at those numbers, that is absolutely crazy. And then if you get down to the special teams, you got Alabama, and Alabama Alabama has half of the special team players for the first team, and then South Carolina has a punter and the kickoff specialist, and A&M has. I guess they just have all-purpose Anaya Smith. They didn't give him a. He just has AP. So, but other than that, that's so. If you take even the special teams, you only get a grand total of 5 none Alabama, Georgia, and LSU players, special teams, first team D, first team offense. Let's see what Pat has to say about this conversation. Pat, you're in with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, the Saban factor. You hear me?
I'm listening.
I said the Saban factor. That's the difference.
What the difference in what, Pat?
It's a process, Martin. That and I promise you this. Hey, they miss out so much of those first team, second teams. Did you go back? Did you go all the way down to third team picks when you were figuring all this stuff out this morning?
No.
Forget the first team. Look at how many they miss out on. When they talk about these first team guys, and look at second and third team. And besides that, all of that stuff is fluff. That when it comes to lacing them up, hey, you don't understand how hard these Alabama boys have been working. That hey, you look at that. Hey, I see Coach Saban brought in a brand new sand pile outside. They brought in a beach sand from down in Destin, Florida. He went down and special purchased 10 dump truck loads of beach sand that these boys are running in. Hey, we're gonna be ready, Martin. Hey, all you gotta do is listen to the preacher in the afternoon on the Bearded Wonders show. Hey, when the preacher starts talking in the afternoon, hey, he's got on those rose-colored glasses, and he says Alabama's gonna win them all, and I agree.
Well, first of all, Pat, it wasn't fluff when they were picking Alabama this way, was it?
Oh man, hey, that's what they thought.
Oh,
that's what the rest of the country thought.
Okay, but it proved not to be the case. So what I'm saying is, right now, they're looking at the talent and the rosters, and they're saying that Georgia and LSU is clearly the toast of the town when it comes to the first level of talent. I intentionally have not mentioned the second and the third team. But when you have, but if the Georgia thing is right, Pat, if you have 5, they have 5. The only place they are not represented on the offense is their quarterback. Okay. And what have we said about the Nick Saban way of winning football? What's the position that you don't need all SEC at or all American at? If you have everything else.
Quarterback.
Huh?
Quarterback.
Okay. Now, it's interesting. Georgia doesn't have a running back. And I think that's the question mark that no one's really talked a lot about. Is Georgia going to have a big-time running back to help with this passing game? Because that's not listed. But do you have to have a big-time running back when you have 3 offensive linemen that are voted first team all SEC? If they prove to be all SEC offensive linemen, does Georgia need to have a big time running back or a big time quarterback?
Yeah. Hey, Martin, you realize Carson Beck was highly coveted by everybody, including Coach Saban.
I don't know about highly coveted. We didn't go after him after he decommitted.
Well, he was still. He was still wounded. I promise you.
I mean, he was one of the guys.
I mean, not just us. I'm talking about. Hey, he is not a. And again, if you got the kind of talent Kirby has, a game manager is about all you need.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that they doesn't appear to have, they don't have big time running backs. When they had big time running backs, they weren't that great.
And don't get me wrong, I think McConkey is good, but I think he's a specialist. I think it's how you use him, and I think that you got to have a. I think you have to. I don't think you have to have an elite quarterback to get the ball to Bowers at all. I think you can get the ball to Bowers any way you can. I think with McConkey, you have to scheme him or isolate him or be able to have things that get him. Now, what's his name was great at it. I think he went a long way in getting him the ball through the design of the plays. Manchin did an unbelievable job. And McConkey is a really, really good receiver. So I don't want anybody to hear me saying he's not a good receiver. Yeah. I'm just saying I think you can. You remember how Clemson used, and he's a much better athlete and player than the young man that played at Clemson. So not saying that, but I think you can physically rough him up if you go in with that game plan. Yeah. Unless you get him in special plays like Georgia has always done. He is an elite athlete, an elite player. And so if they have both of those guys going and that offensive line going, running back and quarterback becomes niceties if they play at a high level. X, let me let X respond, Pat. Hold on one second, Pat.
Go ahead, X. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you're talking about this situation, from that aspect of Georgia, it's what Alabama was for the longest time. It was what Alabama was before Tua got on campus, honestly. When you look at how they played the game and the type of quarterbacks that they had and the weapons that they had, Alabama's probably a little bit ahead with the running back position as well. But Alabama won because of their defense and their offensive line that created the run game. Now the running backs were special, but the offensive line played a huge part in the success that they did have. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say Georgia can continue to do the same thing because we watched Alabama do it for the better half of the decade.
Pat?
Yep. Hey, Martin, this is people don't understand. The last 3 or 4 years, Alabama has been loaded down as far as being in the top 3 as far as recruiting goes. Hey, Coach Saban has gone into the junior college ranks. He's pulled out the top wide receiver, the fastest middle linebacker that money can buy anywhere. And I promise you, what now?
I said that money can buy, Pat. Be careful with your words now.
You know what I'm talking about. Hey, I promise you this, that is going to be the difference.
Pat, do you know how many number 1 wide receivers Georgia has?
Doesn't matter, Morgan.
It does matter.
Hey,
Pat,
no, Morgan.
Pat,
you gotta be able to get the ball to him.
Pat, hold on, Pat.
And they got the best offensive line.
Hold on, Pat. Pat, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you take the best offensive line and the best wide receiver core with a game manager at quarterback and a serviceable, talented running back? And that wide receiver core, by the way, has four guys who could all be number 1 wide receivers. Let me break it down for you, Pat.
And they got a great tight end.
Pat, Georgia has a tight end who may be. If let me put it this way: if Stetson Bennett was coming back for his senior year, Brock Bowers would be my favorite to win the Heisman if they continue to use him the way they have. That's how good I think Brock Bowers is, and the way they used him last year. I don't know that he'll have that type of season. They got McCon, what's his name? Just been saying his name. The wide receiver, good gracious, McConkey, and then you know that they got Missouri's number one receiver from Missouri, and the number one receiver from Mississippi State. So, in other words, guys who have played and were the best receivers on their teams, or in the top one or two on their teams last year, all at Georgia now. And they have the best offensive line. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I was wondering why people were picking Georgia, and the more I look at it, beginning to feel it, Pat. Pat, we got to get the break. You got anything else before we go?
Okay, yeah. September the 11th. That's going to be Monday after the September 9th game. September the 11th, we're going to revisit this situation, and I'm going to be able to tell you how good Alabama's going to be when they demolish Texas.
I'm picking Alabama. I think that this Alabama team, Pat, and I'll talk more about it on the other side. You got to get the break. Pat, I'm thinking that the best thing that happened for Nick Saban is that he only had 3 preseason guys. I'm going to tell you, I'll break it down more. You're welcome to call back in and respond afterwards. But I believe that this very situation is exactly what the doctor ordered for Nick Saban in the 2023 football team. We'll be back on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we got a wreck 2059 eastbound at the exit ramp at exit 89 at Mercedes. You can expect delays getting to the plant. If you see other conditions, give me a call. Go grab a summertime savings at your hometown Nissan dealer, Townsend Nissan of Tuscaloosa. I'm Captain Ray.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life. Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Dead battery, flat tire, out of gas, have an accident? When your auto won't go and you need a tow, call a pro. Jeff's Towing, 75 Skyland Boulevard, 205-361-3997, 205-361-3997.
Your home is the place where you know your loved ones are secure. But the things that keep your home protected can't keep pests at bay. That's where RAID comes in. For 60 years, RAID scientists have worked to protect people around the world with trusted research, ingredients, testing standards, and product efficacy. RAID seeks to create a better future for all, especially the ones you love most. RAID, protection for all.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
Good morning. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We are a live local and ready to get things rolling. I want to remind you to go check out Billy's Cooking Restaurant today, Wing Wednesday, 50-cent wings, located directly across from Holt High School. Definitely invite you to stop by and see them opening at 11 o'clock. Don't forget about Fish Friday and Soul Food Sunday. That's Billy's Cooking Restaurant. Hey guys, due to the way life happens and things happens, I have to get out of here a little early, but I'm going to leave you in very capable hands. X is going to finish the conversation. I'm going to step out here in just a few minutes, but I want to invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. It is open for business, and we have Philip, who wants to get in on the conversation right now. Philip, you're in with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind?
Hey, y'all. I'm a little bit late getting in, so I honestly missed your conversation. But I'm bracing myself for the young man from Clanton committing to Auburn today. I hate that. I drive through Clanton when I come to the Alabama games, and I'm afraid that's going to happen.
X, go ahead. You can address that.
Yeah, the reports the last couple of days has definitely seemed to lean to DeMarcus Riddick, who's been committed to Georgia for a while, flipping, and a lot of people thought it was going to be Alabama, but it seems to be that Auburn has made a push and got out in front on that. So we'll find out for sure in a few hours where he ends up, but all news leads towards the Plains and him being an Auburn Tiger instead of part of the Alabama side.
I'm also concerned about the receiver from Foley. I mean, I think that's real shaky right now, and so hopefully Alabama can offset that and come up with some positive news pretty soon to offset that, because that's a slippery slope that I'm sure the Tide coaches don't want to go down.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's had a great month of recruiting when you stop and look at what they've been able to do. And of course, like I'll get really heavy into the details with it tomorrow, as far as how everything breaks down and where Alabama stands. But there's still some really good news coming up. So stay tuned tomorrow. I'll let you know of some big names that seem to be leaning towards Alabama that are going to be coming and visiting over the next couple weeks as they get ready to make their decisions, as well as a lot of hype around some guys in the 2025 class that look to be really leaning towards Alabama as well.
Well, that's good. That's much needed. And I'm going to give you guys my college football playoff picks. I've got Georgia versus Clemson, and I've got Southern Cal versus Texas.
We'll get you to circle back once the season gets underway, and see what your thoughts are once the season gets going. But that's an interesting pick. That you think Clemson is going to jump back up in there. So we'll talk more about that, Philip. We appreciate you being part of the show, sir. All right. Hey, real quick, X, I'm going to get ready to get out of here, but and leave it with you guys. And I'll pick this conversation up tomorrow. We'll talk more recruiting tomorrow, and we'll also talk about the Tuberville and crew addressing NIL and transfer. But we were talking about why I think Alabama's in a good spot. This class has been disrespected, if you want to call it that, disrespected or not gotten as much respect as Alabama prior classes. And they are on the verge of becoming the first, not only the senior class still has a chance, right? All the guys who were recruited with this class, but they will become the first 3-year guys to not win a championship since Saban won his first championship. They would be the first 3-year guys to not win it. They feel disrespected. It's showing up on paper. It's showing up in the media. Is that enough to drive this team? Hey, call and talk to X about it. Call and talk to us about it. X, you can break that down a little bit more. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these high school kids changing high schools, and these kids not just changing high schools, but also these kids changing positions, whether or not that hurts or helps the players, especially when it comes to recruiting. So I'm going to leave it with you. Scotty Hollins will join in the fourth quarter, but X is going to take it out from here. Thank you all so much for being a part of the show. And we appreciate you. And remember this, even though I'm cutting out a little early, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths out there. Roll Tide, everybody. Now, I will be back on tomorrow.
Always fun talking football in Alabama with my dad, of course. But yeah, one of the things that we talked about at the start of the show was guys changing positions and what that means and what that could mean to their potential college careers. And it is one of those things when you really stop and look at it, that it can play a factor, but for a guy like a Jalen Mbakwe that was mentioned earlier, that's going to be playing quarterback, he's still going to be playing some DB, which is where he's projected to play at the college level. He's still probably going to be returning kicks. So for guys like him, I don't think it plays that big of an impact or has that big of a move on whether college is going to be affected because he's already committed. You know he's a 5-star. You know what you're getting in him. But some guys play a little bit out of position. You know, you got guys that end up playing quarterback in high school that are going to be are going to be wide receivers and never really played anything else. So they're going to be running backs, things like that. There's always those guys that play out of position in that sense of the word, but I don't think it's a huge thing as long as they have at least a little bit of experience of doing what they're going to be doing at the collegiate level. Noah, do you have any thoughts at all on what potentially happens when you see guys play out of position? Do you think that's an impact on them at the next level?
I mean, I always think that doing something like that allows you to sort of see the game in a bigger way and to think about how all the positions fit together. Like, I mean, I think you forget that sometimes whenever you're just in the same position constantly.
No, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you hear about guys that play wide receiver, that play DB at the next level. Trayvon Diggs, I think, is a perfect example of that. You know, he just signed a 5-year, $97 million contract with the Dallas Cowboys, but that's a guy that was a wide receiver when he walked on campus and spent a year playing wide receiver at the collegiate level. Now, he also has the benefit of his older brother being one of the best wide receivers in the NFL as well, but he got to learn the game from a different position. And I think that has translated with him being able to read the ball, and that's why he had 10, 11 interceptions a couple years ago, because sometimes you see him running the route for the wide receiver because that's something that he's really comfortable doing. So that's an added benefit of it. You have guys that end up playing safety at the collegiate level that were quarterbacks, and they go, oh, well, you know, I know how to read the field from playing quarterback. Now they're reading the field from the other side, and so it's that added benefit. But I don't know how too much it hurts or what positions it could potentially hurt. Maybe a guy that just was a quarterback their entire life that ends up playing something else, or a guy that's on the defensive side of the ball that ends up moving to the offensive side, or vice versa, and they never really did it. I think that's where you see the impact on that. And then as far as, you know, the school transfers and things of that nature, I think a little bit of it is some coaches ask kids to move because they want to see them play against higher level of competition. I know some guys back when I was playing that they played at smaller schools, and coaches wanted to see what they could do against higher competition. So they transferred to a bigger school, did their thing, got looks, got offers. Sometimes they brought attention from other schools that were like, oh, well, you know, we kind of heard about him, but now that we see him dominating, you know, in Alabama, 6A, when I was playing now 7A, 5A, any of those things, you see that aspect of what they're doing. And the reason this is coming up is Sterling Dixon, who has been at Mobile Christian and committed to Alabama last December. He is now looking for a new school. He hasn't announced where he's going to end up, but when you see that, you see guys leaving their hometown schools and going and playing at the IMGs of the world. More competition, not only on the field on Fridays, but in practice, because you're playing with, you know, 60, 70 other guys that are getting recruited at D1 level, at a high D1 level. And Alabama committed in 2025 to Anthony Rogers. He's leaving the state of Alabama to go down there and play at IMG for a couple of years. You look at J.C. Latham and Tyler Booker. A lot of people think they're Alabama's best two offensive linemen. They both transferred down to IMG and got that experience. Coach Scarborough is the guy who left Northridge High School here in Tuscaloosa to go down to IMG and play with those guys. Trey Sanders. I mean, it's a long list of guys when you look at that Alabama has recruited and come played here and had a lot of success that were somewhere, played there for a few years. They blew up, and they transferred down to IMG and were able to still dominate. And I think it helped their game. A lot of guys that end up being first year. Evan Neal. I mean, the list goes on of guys that played down in Bradenton. So I'm not too worried about it. I mean, there are definitely coaches that are doing it for what benefits them. When you look at other schools that you see guys transfer to, Hoover was notorious for it back in the day of having guys transfer in to help them win championships and up under Coach Pro. So I don't really think it's anything crazy. It's definitely not anything new. I've seen guys transfer for sometimes better opportunities and sometimes for more exposure to get to the next level. You're seeing it now in college football where you have guys transfer from 1AA group of 5 schools to Power 5 schools once they've made a name for themselves at the collegiate level. So it's just something that's been going on in high school sports. Now you're seeing it at the collegiate level because guys want to make it to the next level. Anything crazy to hear about seeing a guy transfer just strictly from sports, Noah? At the high school level?
Not anything off the top of my head. It's just always something to watch.
Agreed. And like I said, it's something that's happened a ton and will continue to happen and always happen. So it'll be fun to watch as it continues. But hey, we're going to go ahead and get to break. When we come back on the other side, we'll put finishing touches on this episode of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. And we will have Scotty Hollins to wrap it up with the Christian Moment of the Week.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Town Nissan Traffic Center, we got a wreck 2059 eastbound at the exit ramp at exit 89 at Mercedes. You can expect delays getting to the plant. If you see other conditions, give me a call. Go grab a summertime savings at your hometown Nissan dealer, Townsend Nissan of Tuscaloosa. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. Tuscaloosa Police Chief Brent Blakely made his case for a $10,000 retention bonus to keep officers from leaving PTD for higher-paying departments. The chief told the City Council Finance Committee he realizes this is a temporary fix, but it must be done. PPD is 40 officers shy of full authorized strength. The committee voted unanimously to send the proposal to the full council for a vote next week. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Get a great deal on Kubota M-Series utility tractors. Our powerful, versatile lineup is rated #1 in durability and owner experience. So whether you need to mow, rake, stack, lift, or pull, get it done right with Kubota M-Series utility tractors. Right now, get select Kubota M-Series utility tractors for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 60 months. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Tuscaloosa Tractor, 3921 Skyland Boulevard East. Don't you buy no ugly tractor.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier as we get ready to put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show. Before we get to Scotty, we got to talk about things that are going to be coming up on the show tomorrow. Of course, we will be hitting the Greg Manchin and Tommy Tuberville news, as they're getting behind the NIL, as well as looking at recruiting. A lot of news coming up. We've talked about it. DeMarcus Riddick, is he going to be a part of the Crimson Tide, the Georgia Bulldogs, or is he going to be down on the plains with the Auburn Tigers, which is where he seems to be leading? We'll also hit on a Bama legacy picking up an offer. And yes, for some people, this will make you feel a little old. But as well as just going around the capstone again and covering everything, we'll probably dig back into some of the conversation that we had today. And as Blind Score Sports said, sounds like he should have paid attention to that free warning that we saw recently down on the plane as he looks to steal not only from the Georgia Bulldogs, but the Alabama Crimson Tide. But as we get ready to wrap up this edition, of course, we have Scotty Hollins with the Blueprint Christian Moment of the Week joining us on the show. Noah, you got Scotty for us?
Getting him on the phone now.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, today's been an interesting day of conversation, from looking at how Bama is being viewed among the SEC, how this team feels when it comes down to, is it a respect thing? Is it a disrespect thing? What will these guys, the three guys that we saw at SEC Media Day, is their mentality the mentality of this team? As is mentioned, this will be the first 3-year gap without Alabama winning the national championship. When that's been the bragging part from Bama fans since 2009, as we get ready to start the 2023 season of every recruiting class. If they've been here 3 years, they win a national championship. Can Dallas Turner, J.C. Latham, and Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is a part of that 2021 class, who lost to Auburn, didn't make it back to the lost to Georgia, didn't make it back to the playoffs last year. Can they go out on top, as we do believe they will be first-round draft picks next year? But we have Scotty with Blueprint Ministry, Scotty Hollins with Blueprint Ministry, joining us for the Christian Moment of the Week. How you doing, Scotty?
Hey, what's up, Xavier? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
All right, man. So I'm gonna jump right in. We're still doing Summer Through the Psalms, and there's a psalm that I covered earlier this summer. I covered half of it, and there's another part of it that I like, that I want to just cover this morning. I think it's very, very beneficial, very helpful, and very encouraging. And so again, we're talking about Summer Through the Psalms. Our focus has been, or just one of our theme, our thoughts has been the fact that, as we think about the most important thing about us, we've talked about this, the most important thing about us is what we believe about God, because that becomes the lens through which we see all of life. And so what we've done is this summer we've been walking through the Psalms, looking at how, walking through like how David saw the world. In other words, what did David think about God, and how did David's belief about God impact everything that he saw, in his world? And of course, many of us know that David was called a man after God's own heart. So, just saying, all right, David was a real man. He wasn't perfect. He had real flaws. But again, one of the things I have enjoyed just focusing on the fact that David wrote the Psalms, at least the ones that he wrote them like he's writing in a diary, but a diary that no one's going to read. So he's writing real stuff, but he's also writing his true and his real view of God, and how much he trusts God and how he looks to God. And so, one thing I wanted to look at today was just kind of Psalms 127. We looked at Psalms 127, verse 1. And it says, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guard stands watch in vain. And just a little bit of a reminder, the context of that passage. David is about to die. He's actually sharing that message with his son Solomon, and who is about to take over the throne. And so Solomon is again needing advice for, of course, the fact that he's about to be the new king. And so David tells him, unless the Lord builds the house, as you think about, you know, you're going to have many advisors, many people offering advice, many people telling you, here's what they think is the best thing that, you know, that you should do. And he says, unless the Lord builds the house, they that build it labor in vain. So bottom line, he's saying is, man, if you're going to trust anybody, make sure you trust the Lord and that you look to him. Now, we talked about that before earlier this summer. And again, the second part of that passage, unless the Lord watches over the city, the guard stands watch in vain. So the main thing is, as you think about who you need to put your trust in most, it's the Lord. No question, no competition. But another part of this verse that I think sometimes can go just, you know, can get passed over is, but it has so much power, is verse 4. It says, actually, you know, it's verse 3 and 4, actually. It says, let me read it to you. Hold on one second. It says, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Now, listen to this verse. It says, like arrows in the hand of a mighty warrior are children born in one's youth. Again, listen to this. Like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior. And so, again, David was a mighty warrior. And so he knew all about what it meant to be that guy, the mighty warrior. But he says, like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior are the children of one's youth. I want you to think about that. He's talking about, you know, anyone who has kids, but I would say this could apply to any coach who has a team, any boss who has, you know, people who look to them and who have an opportunity to invest in them and lead them. He says, like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior are the children of one's youth. And you think about what arrows look like and what arrows are capable of in the hands of a mighty warrior, and what you kind of, you know, can come away with is an arrow can do what a mighty warrior makes it do, or an arrow can do what a mighty warrior can kind of, through his skill, through his effort, through his ability, can you know guide that arrow to do. So you think about what he's saying here. He's saying, you know, where an arrow lands, or where a child lands, or where think about that athlete, or that person who is being coached. Where that person lands has everything to do with the mighty warrior who's holding it. So my challenge today is, as you think about those you may lead, those who are parents who are listening, then, you know, you can think literally the way this passage is spoken. Hey, your kids are arrows. And I want you to think about how much, where they land, has a lot to do with your effort, has a lot to do with your skill, has a lot to do with, and that effort can be prayers. That effort can be just a plethora of things. But the bottom line is, this is one of my favorite passages because it speaks volumes to the onus and to the responsibility that's placed on the parent and on that coach and on that leader who has a group of individuals who are looking to him, who are trusting in him. And so I want to say, I'd like to, share this passage as a way for those of us who are in leadership to use this, to embrace this, to give us a sense of urgency for the privilege that we have to lead. Obviously, first our kids, but then second, anyone else you're leading, to say, where will they land because I was the mighty warrior that they were placed, in front of? Where will this arrow land because they were entrusted to me? And so I'm going to stop right there, man, and just say, that's my challenge today is, when you think about the arrows that are around you, the question is, where will they land because they were placed around you?
Hey, Scotty, we appreciate you, man. You always bring that powerful word every time. As I was the summer of Psalms, always talking about David and leadership. Scotty, can you let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to www.blueprinttuscaloosa.com. You can send me a message there. It comes straight to my email.
All right, that is Scotty Hollins bringing you the Harvey Church Fishing Moment of the Week. Scotty, always a pleasure to have you every Wednesday. But as we wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports, stay tuned for tomorrow as we will get a little bit more in depth on the recruiting trail, speaking on NIL, and finishing up any conversations that we had today. So we will all see you tomorrow. I'm Xavier Houston, Martin Houston here earlier. Noah Haynes pressing all the right buttons. Have a blessed Wednesday and see you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we got a wreck 2059 eastbound at the exit ramp at exit 89 at Mercedes. You can expect delays getting to the plant. If you see other conditions,
What is the pin, Martin? What's the pin?
353511. And if you're talking right now in front of it, that's going out on the free screen.
353511.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Are you in front of the mic?
No. Okay. Bye. No. Bye. Bye.